Ay, como nos vamos a divertir hoy. Halfway through this baby Insight Slam Radio Sirius XM 145, we save the best fun for the second half. We get probably our most important guest of the day. I have to say that, guys, she's the boss. You want to talk about boss ladies of all boss ladies?
Yep.
We are joined by the one and only MILLIE Sanchez, Slam Foundation. Your frequent flyer miles must be through the roof. Every time I talk to you on the phone, you're somewhere else.
I'll be somewhere else later today.
I know you're hopping on a flight a little later. We appreciate you sliding us in here a little bit, but I provided you the best broadcasters in our network and some amazing questions that they're going to ask you because they know that you had a big part of why this is here today and the things that we do. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. You know how I personally appreciate you. Got the gang as well. I love to see some of our folks, including Andy. Andy's always been a part of things. Talk about like a Rocio that we had on earlier. Andy's been a part of the network too. He travels so much I didn't even think of inviting him, but he's here. So it's pretty cool. One day we'll get him on the air as well. He loves media, man. That guy's a media man. But indeed, we brought him. We got Alex taking pictures, indeed. But I'm going to leave you with the best broadcasters in the business, Slam Radio broadcasters. Take them away.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I kind of want to start this off. Past the Slam Radio program, what is something within all these slams that you take the most pride in? That you're like, yeah, that happened because of us.
Wow, that's a great question. Besides, obviously, what you guys are doing here in radio, I'm very proud of the work that you're doing. I think the biggest thing for me is seeing the students that come out of SLAM and have all these opportunities that in some of the areas that we work in around the country, they would have never been exposed. Just like you guys are sitting here in radio, right? You would have maybe not been exposed to something like this. Whether you go on to careers in radio, you have a voice now, right? And I hope that having had this skill or this opportunity, you're able to now have a different outlook, right, as you go into careers. So I think I'm most proud of the fact that every slam in every city that we're in has taken on its own personality and they've owned each of their programs. But I think I'm most grateful that students are taking advantage of the opportunities that we're giving them and making us proud and coming back. And I think not because she's here, but it's great to see students who started with our program and come back and give back, like Amanda, and they don't want to leave. So I think I'm most proud of the fact that, you know, you want to come back and stay part of what we're doing.
Well, as one of the founders of the SLAM program, and as well as working for over 25 nonprofit charter school networks and 68 charter schools in Florida, with your experience, what would you say was the most challenging situation you had to face to get to the position you are in now?
Wow. I think one of the biggest challenges was really when we tried to open SLAM. And that was back in the school, you know, not just the radio, but when we were trying to open this program, that was back in 2000. We started in 2010. It's amazing to think that it's been that long. And the school opened, before this campus opened, the school opened in 2012. And I think one of the biggest challenges was everybody was against it, right? So it's very tough when you're working for something, you see a vision, and we had a very clear vision of what we wanted to do. We knew it was something that was needed in the city of Miami. You know, you guys know the area that we're in here. Most students, if they go across to Booker T, they're told football is the way to get a scholarship and to go, right? So sports is a big deal around this city. And there had never been a school or a program that would show students the industries behind the sport. And I was a former athlete, and I went to school down the street, Miami High, which is our competition. Mm-hmm. So I went to high school at Miami High, I played softball, I was an athlete. I knew the power, how that empowers all students, but mostly women, female athletes, right? And empowers you to do these things. So I really was excited and had the vision for what this could be. And I think the most challenging part was that for 2 years, everybody was turning it down. People did not want this to happen. And so you guys may not know the story of SLAM, but when we went to try to get our charter and our charter approved, it was like a 5-hour fight to get this school to open. And I think it was because we were gonna bring something great, and it was competition, right, to other programs. So for me, I think that was such a challenging time, right? But I think it was it was such a positive thing in the long run, because it teaches you that sometimes the things that are the hardest and the most challenging are the ones worth fighting for. And if we wouldn't have done that, if we would have given up on slam back in 2010, you guys wouldn't be here today. So for me, that's like one of the most challenging things I've done in my life, but one of the most, it's great to sit here and watch you guys do this.
Continuing the conversation about expansion and the Slam Foundation, Slam has done a lot of expanding ever since the first school opened in 2012. What places or regions are you looking forward to expanding into next?
So, we've gotten to a place where people come to us, which is a great place to be, right? We've gotten to a place where we're not going out there and saying, hey, we want to open a slam here. We've gotten to a place where we'll get calls from around the country and people that hear about our program and what you guys are doing and want to open a slam in their community. And I want to say we've gotten a little picky about that, because we want to make sure that they're successful and that we're doing the right thing. So right now, the focus we have 14 schools around the country. The focus is on growing those programs within those communities. So for example, your neighbors, and I know they come here a lot at Slam Boca, they're growing into their second building. They're growing and expanding their program. So we have several schools, Palm Beach, Arizona, Atlanta, who are growing into their phases. So our focus right now is about quality and bringing more amazing partners and growing the current programs to the best level that we can. I want to say we're not so much focused right now on opening elsewhere. We're open to it, but that's not our mission right now. Our mission is to help grow what we've already built and spend the time. So I guess I would say it's quality over quantity right now, because we grew so fast. We learned a lot from that, but we grew very fast because we said yes to a lot of people, which is great, right? Now we're more focused on how do we make sure that we're expanding on the quality of what you guys are doing here. For example, I want to see Slam Radio in all our campuses.
Yes.
So that's one of our initiatives.
So how do you make sure that each Slam has the same values that they do? Like, for example, when McDonald's was expanding, every restaurant did a different thing until they organized it. How do you make sure that stays organized?
And that's kind of where the Slam Foundation comes in. So every Slam is a little different in that they're part of the community that they serve, right? So you want to say a Slam in Little Havana is not going to look the same as maybe the Slam campus in Nevada or Boca, right? But let's go across the country and go to the West Coast. It's very different. So for example, when we opened in Nevada, it was the second school to open. They're over 2,000 students now. But when we opened there were really no professional sports. So if you think about it, you're opening a school with, this focus on the sports and having these partners in the industry. And it was a town that was based on entertainment. It really did not have professional sports teams. That's changed, right? But so it looked very different when we started the programming there than what it looked like here, for example, when we had partnerships with the Marlins and we had the Miami Heat and we had, NBA. And so it was a little different. But what we were able to do is say, okay, even though you're different and you're serving what the needs of your community are, we call them our Slam non-negotiables. There's certain things that are critical to being a Slam school. And I think the way that we've been able to do that is through the foundation. We created the foundation to make sure that we're bringing all those leaders of those schools together and that we collaborate. We meet once a month with all the principals, and we make sure that the programming is true to what the Slam model is. So we work a lot with the schools in making sure, like, for example, the academy programs are similar. The culture, right? The culture of each school has the what we call the Slam values, right? Of keeping with what we stand for, right? And really, for you guys, what does that mean? My vision was always that school should be fun. When I played sports, I know that I stayed in school mostly because of that sport and because of my coaches. And so we built a culture here where I think, right, it's your relationships with your teachers and your coaches that inspire you to go on. So I think that's something that's very important in the Slam model, relationships.
Well, as someone, like right now, I just heard you and like you can tell how much care and time. This is like basically like your baby.
It's my baby.
Yeah, and
It's
like
my baby.
it's just so inspirational to hear how you express about that. But a question I have for you, as someone who started off as a teacher, which I found crazy, how would you say your experience in that role allowed you to have a broader understanding of how to educate your students?
As a teacher, or just in
Your experience as a teacher allowed you now to have a broader understanding of how to run a school, how to deal with all this, like how to really get to know these kids.
Well, I think my experience as a teacher, I was a very young teacher. And again, I taught at the high school down the street, Miami High, where I went to school. So I was 20 years old and I had seniors. So it was very difficult initially, but that experience helped me realize that for me to get to my students, to them to be engaged in school or in my classes, I taught English, I needed to make it exciting, innovative, and fun. So I did a lot of my work as a teacher was projects, right? And this is kind of what SLAM became. It was like, how do we make school fun so that you want to be here? How do we connect it to the real life? And that's really what SLAM became. When we wrote the curriculum for SLAM, it's like, how do we make this engaging to you so that you can see how it's going to be relevant in your future, in your careers? So.
Her life is slamified because that's everything that she lives. 10,000 students, 12 campuses. MILLIE Sanchez does everything in her power each and every day. Doesn't matter what part of this country she's in, but everything she's doing is working towards this network. She is definitely a powerful woman and a wonderful advocate, not just of our program, but of scholastic work across the country. It's just incredible to see the work that she's done, not just here at SLAM, but outside of SLAM with her work when she worked with Academica, and continues to grow more and more with the future so bright, not just for her, but for us here at SLAM, indeed. When we come back, so short break, more questions. We're gonna dig a little deeper, but not too deep. Talk a little bit about just SLAM Radio, but SLAM Miami is a campus, and the other campuses as well, and what are the plans across the entire network. We're talking to MILLIE Sanchez from SLAM Foundation right here on Insights, SLAM Radio, Sirius XM 145. Back with Insights here on SLAM Radio, Sirius XM 145. Your host, Larry, the amigo Milian. I'm not doing much talking today. I'm letting our students handle business. 12 hours of interviews, 24 scintillating interviews on the greatest radio station on the entire Sirius XM network. I know Dave Webb, our next guest, might have something to say about that. He comes from Patriot Radio 125, but one of our biggest advocates inside of Sirius XM.
Yep.
Man, is he always front and center present and helping us out as much as possible. But we'll continue with MILLIE Sanchez, who she doesn't just help us out. She is SLAM Radio. She makes everything happen for us here and our schools across our entire network of 12 schools. Take it away, ladies.
She's not just SLAM Radio. She is just SLAM. She is Miss SLAM.
Bingo.
She is Miss SLAM. So I kind of want to pick your brain on this of How do you handle being a part of the Slam Foundation, being heads-on for all these schools, for this school particularly, all the academics, everything? How do you handle all of that plus your own personal life? Because we talked to your assistant a little bit earlier, and she told us how you guys all have a very family-like dynamic too, where if she wants to take a day off, you pick up and you help, or if you want to take a day off, she carries a lot of the heavy load. So how does that play into everything while still being the boss?
I guess because I don't look at myself as a boss, I think you're only as good as the people around you. And I think that's something that I learned from my mentor. And, initially and he was actually one of the original founders of this program as well, Fernando Zulueta, who mentored me. And so I think that's the style that I've been able to kind of create with our organization. And it's really like people need to feel autonomy over what they do. And they, I don't like to micromanage. Obviously, I want to be involved in everything that's going on, but I let people do what they do best. So I feel like the reason I've been able to do it all is because I have a great team. I have a team that I trust. So when I know that something needs to get done, like Rocio may have mentioned, sometimes there's days where there's not a lot of craziness and we're good and we can enjoy that, but sometimes there's days where there's a deadline. And I know that my team, if we say we have to work 24 hours around the clock, which we've done in the past, to solve a problem or to deal with a deadline for a grant to get you guys more money, we're going to do it. And so I think I'm not in it alone. And that's been a big part of it. Understanding that you can't go at anything alone, that you need to be able to reward the people that are doing great work and make sure you're surrounded by a good team. So at the same time, I don't mix my personal with my work in that sense. Like I take my work very, very seriously, and then I can kind of connect. So like we are a family, but at the end of the day, we have rules as to we're a family, but we still have to get things done.
Yeah.
So I don't, we're very close as a team, and I think that's what makes it. Everybody that works in the SLAM organization, from your principals to our foundation, has a passion for SLAM. So I think I look for that too. Anybody that's going to be part of our team needs to understand and have a passion and care. And if you don't have that, then I don't want anybody that just wants to have a job. So if that makes sense, that's what makes it work. Everybody really cares about what we're doing.
For the past few years, you've been keeping very busy in terms of your career. And you opened up a foundation, ACE Foundation, which helps aiding in families for their students. I wanted to ask you, can you share to us the story behind how you founded it and what made you realize that this community needed an organization like that?
So that was a while ago. You guys did your research. At the time, I wasn't even really, SLAM wasn't even an idea at the time when I was working and we kind of established the ACE Foundation. I was actually working in the charter school world and I was working writing curriculum. That was my background, and we were working on opening several schools. And it was kind of like this collaborative effort to say like, hey, we need some kind of organization to help us fund some of these community initiatives and what we were seeing, what students needed, and families, underserved families needed in our community. So the ACE Foundation was really a way to get other people involved in helping us do that work. And, and then obviously as I came on board with SLAM, that got handed over to someone else. And then we created the SLAM Foundation, right? Which again, it's a public charity to help support all the work, from scholarships to initiatives for your schools. Like some of this equipment was donated from the work that we're doing. So it makes me very proud to sit here and see how it's being used. So yeah, it was really a way to say the same thing, kind of like, hey, we need to build a community of people to help continue. Like I said, you can't do something alone. And if you think you can, you're not going to be as impactful. And the only way to create impact is to get people on board and to buy into what you're doing. That's why we do all these tours at SLAM. I want everybody to come and see what we're doing because I want them to be a part of it.
So the nonprofit sector can be often underfunded.
Yes.
So how do you approach fundraising and ensuring the sustainability of SLAM Foundation?
That's a great question. So in the past couple of years, I want to say thanks to a guy who you guys may or may not know very well. He's not very well known. He's only like Mr. Worldwide. We have been very fortunate that, and you know, he has very different names, Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305, Mr. You know, I can't keep track of all his names, but I call him Armando, and then some people don't realize who I'm talking. It could be this Armando, right? But we've been very fortunate that because of his influence and his involvement in really wanting to build a school, he was very instrumental in putting SLAM on the map because he wanted to give back to his community because a teacher changed his life. So for me as a former teacher, that was very impactful. He did it because he wanted to give back to this community and build a school and make education something really important. And he's not just a promoter of that. His own children, as you may know, went to school here. So he's not just, you know, promoting it, he's also a charter school parent. And so thanks to Armando's vision, wherever he goes, he talks about SLAM, if you guys see his concerts. And so we've been very fortunate to get a lot of the fundraising and partners involved to come and just, hey, we want to give to SLAM for the work that you're doing. So he's been really our ambassador and an advocate, and has helped me a lot, right? Because I don't have to go out as much and do that. But in the last, our actual initiatives over the next 3 years is really that. How do we create a funding stream so that the foundation can continue to support and grow the programs like SLAM Radio, which you guys know we don't get funding for this. This is not something that exists in every public school. We have to go out and really work to make sure you guys have the resources and the equipment to keep this going. But because we believe it's so important, we're actually now, Andy's joining us in that effort, and we have a team at the foundation where our focus is to bring more partners to want to be part of bringing in the resources to help grow our program. So that's something that on the foundation end we are really honing in on this year. But I do want to thank Armando and Mr. 305, however you want to call him, just for his influence in really connecting us with people that really want to do good. So you're going to see, actually, Daniel Suarez is going to be here today, who's one of our partners. Trackhouse has been really great about helping to support our programs.
It's been an amazing partnership for 5 years with Trackhouse Racing, and indeed Daniel Suarez is another great story, and we're going to have him in the chair and interview him as well. I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Yep, I'm the tough question asker, but this one's kind of a lollipop. You've been through it all. Like, I just learned, I'm today days old learning that you went to Miami High, and that's where you got your starts, right here in the community. You really are a community lady and someone who started from Miami, from up.
And we can talk about this later, Larry, but you know I'm a diehard Yankee fan too, but
I wasn't aware.
I didn't know you, yeah.
You might be a bigger Yankee fan than me, you think?
I went to school in Brooklyn, so.
That's where I was born and raised. What school did you go to?
Oh, look at that.
I didn't know you
PS 189.
PS 131. Look at that. Wow. Yeah, look at who knew?
Yeah.
I
Bless
know, right?
you. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Brooklyn in the house. Your vision. Thank you for the Brooklyn soundbite. I always ask. This was once asked of me in a meeting at 790 The Ticket. They said, "Million, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?"
Oh, wow.
And it was a crazy answer because I just went off the hip and I said, I don't know, a bunch of young people sitting around a table doing a morning show, kind of like a zoo environment. And I don't know, I'd run a national radio station and they all started laughing at me. I swear to you, it was never a goal, but look what worked out. Where do you see? Wow. Forget this. Where do you see you and SLAM and all your efforts in the next 5 years?
Wow. I actually haven't thought about that because we're so busy in it. Sometimes, you know, they say it's hard to see the picture when you're inside the frame. And we're on the day-to-day and we're so busy doing the work that I don't take enough moments like this to sit back and look at it and really kind of reflect on, wow, what we've accomplished over the past, going to be now 12 years. So I kind of think about the present and kind of work, but if I had to say from a personal perspective, where do I see myself in 10 years? I still want to think that I'm going to still be here and still doing this work and still seeing these guys right here be back and be possibly in careers, whether they're doing in this industry or where they're here helping us continue to grow these programs. So I'm not going anywhere. I can't picture not being a part of SLAM.
Neither am I. I can't even be balder in 10 years. I can't look any older than I already do, but I'll still be here along with you, Millie. Millie Sanchez, thank you for joining us on Insights. This was a special program near and dear. I've had this idea for years without the personnel to pull it off until today. And I told our students, couldn't do this without you. So this has been a dream realized thanks to our students at Slam Radio, hard work. Thanks to Frank Fernandez, who helps us on the engineering side, and some of our students. That engineering team has been killing it today with the music, the sound bites, and everything that we do. Yep. But the biggest shout out goes to our student broadcasters. Great questions, great prep, great broadcast in general. Thank you so much, Millie. I hope you're proud of us.
I
This
am
is a lot
so
of this
proud. I'm
show off for
sitting
you.
here. Can't you guys? I mean, I know this is radio, but I've been tearing up for every question because I'm like a proud mom watching this.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Yeah, I know. I'm like trying to keep it together,
I wasn't
but
sure
it's
if it was
just
a light or
it's a light. It's light, but it's really great to see. So I'm really proud. I'm able to have these moments to sit back and watch this all happen.
Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Andy, who's in there talking with Frank and the gang, because they work behind the scenes with you. We had Rocio on earlier. They all do things with you that help us be better, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys and continue to do this great work. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us. She's lucky number 13. Number 14, the one and only Dave Webb. Patriot Radio, Sirius XM 125. I'll let him come in and say, Arriva. He gets mad at me. I don't care. I do a pretty good fake Dave Webb, but we're going to have the real Dave Webb on the hot seat with our great students.
I don't want to get off the hot seat. I love this.
Isn't it a nice seat?
This is addictive.
Try 7 years of that. You'll see how you want to get off a bit after a while. Move around like I've been doing today. Back on the other side, Insights, kicking butt, taking names. Dave Webb is next. Slam Radio, Sirius XM 145. Yeah, I'm responsible for picking that song. I had to call some people to figure out what I needed to play for this next intro. Hopefully we got it right. If we didn't, we have another break to come back from. Seems like everybody here, I call him my good friend. It's like I'm just name dropping and whatnot. He's so used to hosting a show, he's fixing his mic, he's putting on the box, putting on the headphones. He's not even supposed to have headphones on. He's the guest, he's not the host. I'm just kidding. It's hard to tell a radio guy not to wear headphones during a radio show. It's not, you're never gonna get him to do it. You saw Ryan grab for it, you saw Zoggy grab for it. Like the radio people are gonna, give me the headset, give me the headset. Our next guest, this guy's radio, this guy's TV, this guy's the man. I learn a thing or two every time I have a conversation with him. This week I had the pleasure of meeting Linda McMahon in his studio. In case that name may ring a bell to you, she is the Secretary of the Department of Education. Very, very interesting. They've been talk this week in the news cycle. Dave Webb had a chance to talk with her. He knows her very well. Good afternoon, David. Thanks for coming in, man.
Good afternoon.
I appreciate you coming in. This time the kids are interviewing you. This is not Slamathon. This is not you interviewing them.
You mean I just get to sit back?
You get to sit back, and
I'll get on
Amaya,
mic,
Joshua, and Gabriel, as well as our mom, that are going to ask you a slew of questions.
But I'm going to give you something because Larry, let's face it, there's always a twist, right?
Always.
Why did you play The Who?
A little birdie told me you might like The Who.
Also, what does Roger Daltrey do? Teen Cancer.
Teen Cancer, yes.
And we're talking about bringing Roger to Miami, doing something with Roger, David Beckham, with Messi, all in Teen Cancer Foundation.
And Larry the Amigo Milangos.
And you will be there.
Of course I will. I appreciate you always including me in your efforts, indeed, and we have some stuff that we're working on now down the pipe.
And for everybody goes, who's Roger Daltrey? He's the guy you heard playing a minute
The
ago.
Who, kind of a famous band indeed. I leave you with our professional broadcasters, David, and I know this is a surprise for you, but you're being interviewed and not on Fox News, but on Slam Radio. Take it away, guys.
So, Dave, how's it feel to be back in the studio again?
Normal.
Yeah.
I've been here enough times, I get really used to it. It's fun. I get pizza, I get Dr. Pepper,
Donuts.
and life is good.
So I just wanted to open up the discussion by asking you, the very first time that Milian introduced you to my class was when he brought up this incident where a caller called you on your show and accused you of benefiting from white privilege, even though clearly you don't. So how do you feel that incident has changed your view on the involvement of race and identity in politics?
Well, it didn't necessarily change it, but it solidified my view. Quick background, I'll give you the 15, 20-second version. Areva Martin's a Harvard-educated attorney, someone that CNN pitched to come on my show to discuss the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to be a Supreme Court justice. So their request, come on my show. We had about a 12-minute interview. We talked about qualifications before all of the white privilege part happened. We talked about the justice. I asked about judicial qualifications. She's a Harvard-trained legal analyst, an attorney. So that was the discussion. The problem is that I stayed, no, not the problem for me, problem for her was I stayed on qualifications, not color, not gender, none of the other things that she was leaning into. And when I made a comment about having crossed different platforms, that's when she, who had asked to come on my show, took an assumption that based on what I said, rock radio, hit radio, worked with bands, rock bands, hip hop, all of that, she decided I could only be white because only a white person could achieve that. That tells you more about her than it does about me. That her assumption is that you must be white because you achieved. And no matter what the color of your skin, if you work hard, you have a very good chance of achieving. Second part is she threw her team under the bus. My team gave me wrong information. Come on, do you guys look up the guests you're going to have in here?
Of course, we have
They
to do research.
played baseball, what position, businessman or woman, what role in the company?
Of course.
So you really wouldn't have anybody to throw under the bus. Well, that's dishonest. If you make a mistake, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Own it. But she was so stuck on this fake white privilege narrative that it had to be achieved based on color of skin, that all she could do was throw her team under the bus. And by the way, I wasn't going to even put that clip out. I considered that, sadly, just what I expected from that. It was my team that said, oh no, we're cutting that and putting it out, and then the rest of the world joined in. So now you know more of the story.
I wanted to ask, like, you've been in the radio industry for such a long time. I want to know, like, what's the goal at the end of your career? Like, what do you want to put out as a message, and what do you want to leave behind when you finish your career?
Education. What I do in talk radio, even what I did in music radio, morning shows, night shows, if you're educating a music audience, you're educating them about the music, the artist, the things you do. If you're doing talk and you're doing an economic topic, you want to leave somebody with more. If you're doing politics, you want to leave them with more. I want people to have open minds, ask questions. I have lots of questions. I have questions every day. I have to learn something to do what I do every day. Learn something new. Maybe it's an additional fact or 2 or 5 or 10, depending. But I want people to be more curious, more open, and be more educated about just about everything they can.
All right.
And I wanted to ask also,
Yes, boss.
you're such a prominent figure in the radio industry, in the radio world, and you're very intimidating, I want to say. So when you're meeting new people and you're introducing yourself, how do you kind of try to not seem so intimidating to them?
First rule, and I learned this a long time ago, nobody's ever that important. Because I have a microphone, I have a nationwide platform, actually international. We're on in Canada. I can be heard in Mexico, I can be heard around the world, you know, if you have a Sirius XM account. And at no time am I ever more important than the person listening. If you take that approach, and I'll give you an example, there are lots of people out there that are very famous, musicians, you name it. I know so many musicians, and one of the reasons I respect them, you come out of a concert, there are people standing there, they're waiting for that autograph, that's their moment. And in that moment, they will stay there for 2 hours to make sure that everybody gets a picture, a selfie, an autograph, because they consider the right thing, which is the people listening are the more important ones. If not, I'm just shouting into the wind.
On your show, you do a lot of talk about breaking news, political commentary, analyses. What would you say to people who think, oh, I don't really like politics. Politics is not really my business. I couldn't really care less for it. Do you think people should follow politics?
Well, what governs your life? You and I make decisions. We want to do this. I want to do this in my life. I want to do this today. But around society, politics, which has been around longer than the country, since any society, in some form is how your life is governed. So whichever way you come at it, you should know where you're coming from, why you're going in the direction you're going, understand it, be open, back to have an open mind, and then realize that governing your life is this entire world of politics, complex, messy, ugly, clean, no matter what it is.
I also, so kind of piggybacking off of Amaya, how to not look intimidating.
A lot of people piggyback off of her, by the way.
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
Yeah.
And I wanted to.
I only pick on the ones I like.
Yeah. So how, you know, when you interview people, you could be looking off intimidating. Is there like a specific way? Because the voice, I mean, for me, the voice is like, okay, this guy's chill. You know, I can you know, have a conversation. I want to know, like, is there like something you do? Or do you just try to like back off, let them speak for themselves? Like, what do you do? What's the game plan?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do when interviewing anyone, and it's the same thing you do with a caller. People know what they like talking about what they know and understand, just like asking a question. So if you have a guest, and we'll use Linda McMahon, who Larry mentioned in the beginning, that she was in the studio. Now, I happen to know Linda. I know her from her WWE days, prior administration. We've known each other for some time. But we start out by just talking to the person. Yes, you make the proper introduction. There's a format. You have to, you know, use the proper title. You want to make sure you get that right because that's for the person listening. But my approach can be more open and usually is to ask a question, fair question. You don't have to ask an easy question, or you don't have to target it to make it somehow biased, to make it. Just be open and honest with them, and also let them talk about what they know. She's the Secretary of Education, therefore I want the secretary speaking, so engage that person in their expertise.
Okay.
So with how easily accessible the internet has become, there are a lot of articles that are very biased or have misinformation. And so, especially on social media, I wanted to ask you, do you think social media has a positive or negative impact on political discussions and how they're handled?
Both, and it will never be clearly defined. The thing is, with the internet, you're going to get all kinds of positions, wrong positions, partial positions, people who take one scintilla of information, make it the ultimate truth. And you get people who also focus on getting as much fact-based reporting as they can. Both will exist, so now it comes back to you and to me and to everybody. Consume it, do more research, try to find it, use common sense. If something doesn't seem right, follow that. A lot of times that will get you further. And then, yes, you have to research kind of the library approach. Okay, when I get in there, there are all these stacks of books. Now it's electronic. Let me look for it and consider the source. And sometimes consider a source you won't agree with, maybe in your initial thought. See what their perspective is.
I'm sorry, is this on? Yeah, I find that social media is an interesting platform, to speak, and many times people go and give their political thoughts. And I just yesterday engaged with somebody, I never do, but I engaged with somebody in radio who said something about Linda McMahon and the Department of Education and said a whole bunch of things that weren't true. And my answer was simply, rather than show you that you're wrong, I'll ask you to look it up yourself, just like I ask my students.
That's a good way to do it.
I'm not going to fight with anybody, but all the misnomers, and I know exactly why you were asked that question, which is, that's the best question of the first 13 or 14 interviews. That's just an amazing question to ask. But I know exactly why, is because in our classes we focus on fake news. And I've always hated that term. Donald coined that term, and I don't like it. But the truth is there's a lot of news that is untrue or half true. And I tell them, don't headline hunt, dig into the story. And there was one this week that drove me nuts. I know we got to go to break. I don't want to necessarily tease it, but the one that said that segregation was back.
Yeah.
And I had to clear up the segregation is against federal law in the United States of America. But the headline brought it in a way where they thought, oh my God, we're losing our minds here in America. Guys, dig deeper for your facts, because they're not going to give you everything. You got to look for the truth. And that's something that I think when you talk about social media, it's never going to be clearly defined because of that.
So to an earlier question real quick, the payoff when you get it right is when people stay with you and they leave others. And the quick example is last weekend on Fox, one of the shows I co-host. We quadrupled CNN. We tripled them in the first hour, quadrupled them in the second hour in core demo. Why? Not because we're necessarily all that great and we work together, we do the research, we put on the show, but because people believe that they can come here, left, right, center, whatever, don't care, and get better information. So your audience will tell you whether you're trustworthy or not.
SiriusXM's David Webb from Patriot Radio, Channel 125. He is joining us here in studio on Insights. He's being interviewed. We'll go to a quick break, come back. Our student broadcasters will continue asking him the scintillating questions that they've been asking everybody who's sitting on the hot seat today during this program. Insights, back on the other side. You're listening to Slam Radio, SiriusXM 145. A lot of people don't know Dave Webb got his start on music radio. He had to tell Ariva that one day. You know that I am a radio geek. My favorite radio moment of all time is yours. And we're not going to talk about it because I talk about it every time I put you on the air, but I always refer to poor old Ariva from CNN. That was a funny day in radio.
Unplanned.
Unplanned, and I every 3, 4, 5 days, the soundbite comes up when I'm scrolling through social media. It's the gift that keeps giving.
I was in South Africa last year. Somebody walked up to me in the lobby. I know you. I'm like, okay, maybe it's TV. No, you're that white privilege guy.
I have friends that are Democrats that say, I don't usually listen to him, but that was pretty funny. Any chance I get, if I got to break the monotony somehow, if I go to Franco, Arriba, I'm black. And I always do this and I make people laugh. But the truth is, you made the entire world realize that radio is an auditory platform. And if you make assumptions while you're on radio and you don't see what's in front of you, you could get yourself in trouble. And this Arriba lady thought you were a white guy with white privilege and she didn't do her homework like you told her. But our student broadcasters, they did do their homework.
Yeah, I get
They did
that.
their research and they're asking away. So I'll let them ask away and continue.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you share the journey that led you to become a radio host on Sirius XM, and like what were some pivotal moments that got you to the point where you are?
Well, with Sirius, I'd already been in it for some time. I had the music side, then I went to talk in 1997. I did a show with Willie D from the Ghetto Boys. That was an urban talk show. And then there was a mix, right? You get this rapper and this guy from the other side, but doing a show, and Willie is a good guy. He wanted to help people in his community, and it turned into a syndicated show. Coming to Sirius was actually just a question and filling in for Andrew Wilkow. We ran into each other at an event, by the way. It was a political event. I was the moderator. We started talking, and he said, this was on a Tuesday night, hey, David, I know you're syndicated terrestrially. I'm at Sirius. Would you come and fill in for me sometime? Because we all need fill-in hosts. Thursday, for whatever reason, he was out. Don't remember right now. I got the call. I went in and did it. I did a few shows, paying attention to the listeners. My thing is to engage. One day I blew up the phones, and then the boss at Sirius came down and said, I have an idea and I'd like to send you an email. Before that, I got into radio by accident. So that really back in my college days was when I got into it. We had an FM station. I had a little fun, but then I got into an argument with the DJ about Joe Cocker. Details of the argument aside, I corrected him on something in Rolling Stone. He told me, he read it in Rolling Stone. I said no, and then somebody else that was there said, hey, he was at the party. So you never know what's going to happen, but hate to tell you, that's it. No secret formula for me.
So we know you've been in radio for many years.
How many manys do I get? Hang on, let me.
Just two, just three.
I'll stay on mic here just so you know, so I don't lose my credibility. Okay.
So I wanted to ask, do you have any favorite moments, favorite conversations in the many years of radio that you've had?
Wow. Okay, let's rewind many years now. Okay. There are a lot of them, but there are a few that stand out because I wanted to do something different. In 2013, if I remember the year correctly, I went to Afghanistan. And it was something the company was not happy about. I had to sign away everything, including the company's responsibility to bring my body home if I was killed.
Oh, wow.
So they were not kidding about this. But I went over there, I embedded with the Afghan Air Force that we were building at the time, spent that time, but then I had a broadcast from there. And I was in the Dragon's Lair, which is the Air Force forward operating base. And I made an audible right when I started the show, or sometime as I was about to start the show, and realized that this wasn't about me broadcasting from Afghanistan. It was about the dozens of Air Force service members, and there were people from some other services there too. So I just turned the show into 3 hours of saying hello to your families back home.
Oh, wow.
Some of their families were listening, some were not because it's rebroadcast. But that was what I consider part of what we do, which is it's about the listeners, it's about the people out there.
Right.
So I just turned it over to them. That's one of my favorite moments because I wasn't in charge. There wasn't really a format anymore. There was just, you know, you're in Afghanistan, 20,000 miles away, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to say hi.
That's amazing.
To add on to that, you know, you've done talk radio in a bunch of places: Boston, Houston, Dallas, New York. Which city has the best and/or most interesting callers?
Oh wow, that's a tough one. I did music in Boston in a time when concerts were big, music was big, so that had its own appeal. Overall, it's too broad to pick just one. More its people have regional, sometimes a regional view of something, depending on the topic. So it's really hard to pick one. It's hard to say this city has the best or worst. Now we can debate all the pizzas and the different things and the Italian food and more, but that's a whole other story.
So for this generation, my generation, I feel like we really value being politically correct. And that has shaped the way we talk about politics. And so I wanted to ask you, what do you think about cancel culture? Like, have you ever felt pressured to censor what you want to say while you're on having a debate or having a conversation on your show? Do you feel like that has changed? Do you think that has a negative impact on free speech, maybe?
I've never felt pressure because I won't put it on myself. I won't. And, you know, there are times when your bosses may come to you afterwards and say, all right, let's talk about what you said. They're the boss. But I've never felt that pressure. I've also never been told, whether at Fox or at Sirius, that I can or can't say something. Politically correct is a misnomer. The fact is, be correct. Do your best to be right. Be willing to admit when you're wrong. And don't worry about somebody saying you said the wrong thing. So that leads to cancel culture. Refuse to be canceled. That's it. Refuse to be. Now, I'm not saying don't be realistic about the fact that there's pressures out there and people willing to go dishonestly to a position, but think about a comedian like a Dave Chappelle who refused to be canceled. I interviewed a comedian, Charisse Mayer, on my show today. She's a comedian, podcaster. She refused to be canceled. Just refuse to be canceled. Be correct. If you're right, and you've substantiated, you got the facts, you know where you are, and you're being reasonable, it's okay to have that different point of view. Somebody else is okay to have a different point of view. But I never want the power to shut you up. And that's really what I say to a lot of people, that I should never have that power. No one should ever have the power to silence another person. That's the First Amendment.
I think it's incredible as we ask these questions, and you know, you bring up the cancel culture. It was something I thought of, and it's not my interview to have, so I would have never asked the question. Frank remembers when the world tried to cancel me because Ivanka Trump was right where you were. We all took a picture, and ironically, the question asked about you've been scared or you've been like, I stepped away. And in the picture, everybody's together, and I am more than an arm's length away because I was afraid of what was going to come, and boy, did it come. I got a wrath the next day on social media that why was I next to her, that I must have called her to come over, and then some folks called for my canceling, and you know what I told them?
No.
144, 146. Those are the alternate channels around mine. Do me a favor. I don't need your ratings. You don't pay my salary. And whether you listen or not will not make one iota of a difference in my life or these students' life. So in fact, you might be doing me a bigger favor by not listening anymore. But cancel? No. I cancel
Refuse
you.
to be canceled.
I cancel you is exactly what I told him. And it never got any wave, anything whatsoever. It was quashed at that moment, and Slam Radio lived on to live another day. Today. March 21st, 2025, Insights. This is the first of many of these that we're going to do over the years, but this is the one that's been really special. Dave, I appreciate you coming in the studio, letting our students interview you and ask some real good questions. I know you're going to stick around a little bit at least.
I will.
We got Danny Pino on Zoom. Law and Order SVU and other things. Yeah, it's going to be a fun interview indeed. I'll be sitting there as I introduce him, and then our student broadcasters will ask away. He's an amazing interview. My daughter had the opportunity many years ago to have a one-on-one with him, and it was fantastic. He's a one-of-a-kind Miami guy. Another good friend of mine. Lord have mercy. I guess that's why they call me the amigo, right? Dave Webb, Patriot Radio, Sirius XM 125. You can catch him in the mornings. You start at 9, right?
9 a.m. to noon.
9 to noon. You can catch him on Fox.
And I listen to Slam on the way in. As you know, a number of days, I just flip over to see what's going on.
Yep. I always get a text here and there. I'm listening to you right now.
Or I send him notes.
Yeah. The one thing I don't get is the voice notes. I don't get, hey, Larry. I don't get any of that stuff. Man, oh, man, has it been wonderful. Danny Pino next, right here on Insights, Slam Radio, Sirius XM 145.
Thank you for having us.